But I really do hope that I inspire some, especially women, especially younger women, to pursue something like this, even if it's not woodworking. And I hope that my daughter will eventually, see that her mom is, chasing dreams and doing things that maybe aren't so stereotypical for someone like me.
Hey everybody, this is Ben Crawford with Red Barn Home Furnishings, and this is the Unexpected Podcast, episode 7, I think, episode 7. I'm super pumped to have Alyssa Timmer with me today from AT Timberworks, and we're going to talk about her small business and how she went from, in a very rapid period of time, making her own desk for her house and figuring that out to where she is now, which she's come a long way, baby. Alyssa, how are you doing this morning?
I'm great. Hey, Ben, thanks for having me.
I'm super pumped to have you. Before we get too deep into this, let's talk about how everybody can find you on social. What are they gonna look for if they want to look up AT Timberworks?
Yeah, so I'm most active on Instagram. My handle is AT_Timberworks. I also have a website, attimberworks.com. That's where I take most inquiries for custom projects. I also, and same, I have an email for that. But I'm also planning a YouTube, but I haven't launched any long form videos yet. So eventually they'll be under AT Timberworks there as well.
Cool. Yeah, I find YouTube to be difficult to work with.
Yeah, it's just one of those things I've been meaning to do, but
I somehow my comments on YouTube got turned off, and I don't know how to turn them back on. So my last 3 videos I've put out there, I'm like, how do I turn these comments on? I can't figure it out. Anyways, I'm not exactly the most technically advanced person. So that's how everybody's going to find you on social internet. YouTube's coming to talk about our sponsor, Red Barn Home Furnishings. That would be me. You can find Red Barn Home Furnishings at red_barn_home on Instagram. redbarnhomefurnishings.com, which the website's in the middle of being redone and turned into e-commerce friendly and all that fun stuff. That's the big thing I have going on. Also have YouTube. If you're listening to this, you're probably listening to it on YouTube. Also Spotify, and is that all of them? Facebook, and no TikTok. I refuse TikTok.
I'm a no TikToker as well.
Yeah, I'm no TikToker. So now that everybody's heard how to find you, how to find me, let's talk about get into the beginning of it. What, first of all, what does AT Timberworks do? If a customer goes on there, and what are they going to see when they get onto your Instagram?
Yeah, so I mainly do custom furniture. I've started a lot with charcuterie boards and smaller things, and those sell super well, but I have been dedicating more of my time to larger items, tables, things like that. So if you see on Instagram, I post a lot of process videos just because I like to interact with other woodworkers, and it's always a fun way to just show what I'm doing. But if you go on my website, what you'll see is finished pieces. So
okay. Well, that's where you and I are similar. I like showing the process too, because it helps people appreciate what you're doing. Because so often, especially right now in today's world, people are just used to going on nameless big box store websites and purchasing stuff that's junk, that's made in foreign countries and sweatshops and whatever, and that's good for them to see the process of what you're doing and how much hard work and craftsmanship goes into every single piece. So I'm right there with you. I think that's a great way to go. That's actually how we found each other. It was I can't even remember. It was some Northeast Ohio woodworking group somebody put together and invited us all in there. And
on Instagram.
Yeah, and that's how we quote unquote met, was through that. So I remember seeing your videos, and you do real nice technical stuff, and so that's our common thread on that. So leading into that, what you do there, how did you get started into this? Because I know that you're relatively new. I wouldn't say new.
Yeah.
Within the last 5 years or whatever.
Yeah. We had, like you had mentioned at the beginning, I wanted a live edge desk. It's still something I work on a lot today is live edge pieces. I had just bought a house. It was during COVID and I was working from home. I still am. So I built my desk, which was not great when I built it. But then I had a really nice time building it. I had a couple basic things like a small circular saw and drills, and that's it. So that was kind of how I got started. And then I started to see all of the possibilities, and I wanted to try, okay, this epoxy stuff looks pretty cool. I know that's been very popular in the last 5 years. So I went ahead and tried that, made a desk for my sister. And then people just started asking me to make stuff. It was really cool. I did not have any experience or training, but I just figured it out along the way. I also did not charge almost anything for those pieces because I was too scared. And then I started to branch out. Once I made woodworking friends and really dove into the YouTube tutorials, things like that, I was able to be more self-taught on different things, got more into hand tools, bigger items, and things that I could actually sell and make custom.
Didn't you do a desk with one of those lift systems?
Yes.
Who was that for?
So I've done a couple of those. My original desk was, I forget the name brand, but it's a standing desk.
Yeah.
Because I hate sitting all day. So it's funny that I have like a office job, but I still use that base, but I've since replaced it with a beautiful spalted maple top.
Gotcha. Well, and that's pretty standard, I would say. Like my first pieces have definitely been replaced, where as you push your skill level up and you go back, when you initially make that first piece, you're like, man, this is awesome. I love this thing. And then you come back to it, you revisit it a couple of years later, even less time than that, and you're like, holy crap, what was I doing?
Yeah. It's kind of cool though to see the difference.
The maturation. Yeah. For sure. And it's, I also think it's great that you're kind of self-taught. Cause I'm kind of self-taught. Like I had shop class when I was in 7th grade, and that was the only formal training I had. And it was pretty much like, here's how you use the pencil. Here's how you do this. Don't cut your thumb off, which a kid in my shop class cut the tip of his thumb off with his bandsaw. So the bandsaw still scares me to this day because I watched that kid cut the tip of his thumb off. But so that's really, I love the fact that you're self-taught. But you did some of the YouTube videos, right?
Well,
watching them, I mean,
yes.
not recording.
Yep, it was, I mean, I think it's the best place to learn because I've never gone to like a formal woodworking school, but there's just so many people and so many resources out there to see. And there's so many different types of woodworking. So being able to like dive into different areas is kind of cool and try new things. Yeah.
Well, and there's such a wide range. It's kind of amazing. And that's where I think there's just so much space for everybody in the industry in general. You know what I mean? Because there are so many different disciplines as far as, you know, for instance, when I make cabinetry, I use a lot of pocket hole jig. Craig pocket hole jig, I use the heck out of that thing when I'm doing cabinetry. But then there's a lot of guys that just use dovetail only. And dovetail is a mystery to me. I've done it, but the setup time is so long that it's not worth it for me. Like when I'm setting up, and I have a real nice dovetail jig, a Lee jig. It does real nice work when I take the time to set it up, but it's like, screw this. I'm going to use the Craig and just get done. And it's still just as strong and it works. So as you've been doing this stuff, like what's your desk obviously was your original project. You've gone and redone it. I think I remember the maple top you're talking about for your desk. What was one of your more favorite projects that you've worked on so far?
The first one that pops into my head is a dining room table I made this summer. It was a monkey pod slab. So I don't typically work with exotic woods. I try to source everything locally in Northeast Ohio, but I had been in Columbus, and a guy I had met on Instagram, he was selling exotic hardwood slabs. And so I think he was going out of business, and yeah, and this thing that I've seen the same type of slab at Woodcraft for $3,000. I think I bought it for $400.
Oh, wow.
And it barely fit in my car. I drove all the way from Columbus to Cleveland with this thing mounted on top of my seats and like back out the back of my Jeep. But it was so heavy that it didn't budge at all. But then I ended up doing a 8-foot dining room table with that, and it had this crack in it. And instead of just kind of defaulting to that, let's just fill this with like black epoxy, I kind of wanted to think outside the box. So I did walnut stitches. I had charred the inside of it to give it like a smooth and kind of a natural look. And then I actually bought another monkey pod slab and made legs with it. So it's got slab legs, slab top. And I sent it out. A friend of mine bought that, and it was one of my biggest commissions as well. And it's now lives in her home in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Oh, wow. That's a coinky dink.
Yeah.
Because the one exotic table that I did that had legs like what you said,
yeah,
and the top is sitting in Salt Lake City as well.
Wow, must be a big thing there.
That's a coincidence.
I know. I'm gonna go visit it if I can. I want to see it like staged, because she's got beautiful like place settings and stuff. So it really makes the table look cool. Yeah, so that stands out in my mind. I always like dining room tables for some reason.
Yeah, dining room tables are lots of fun. That's for sure. I prefer the bigger stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's my jam is the big stuff. Like you said, presentation boards, charcuterie boards, stuff like that. They're you can pump them out, but I get way more fulfillment from making a big, beautiful dining room table or conference table or something like that.
Yeah, I think because at this point for both of us, it's the same thing every time. You can't really, you can go outside the box a little bit, but not as much as you can with a bigger item.
Yeah.
It's just more meaningful too. I think about the way people spend time at a dining room table with their family and their friends and their kids. So it's, to me, more meaningful and a piece they can have for hopefully forever.
Yep. Holidays, special moments. When you start thinking about it, I used to tear up when I would think about this, but when you start to think about it and all the special moments that are going to happen at that piece that you made for that family, that's why it's so important to just knock it out of the park. Because great moments, terrible moments, everything in between, they're going to have right there at that table. If they're anything like my family, like I remember, it's actually funny. This is funny. The table that we sit at my parents' house is this old piece of shit that's like from 1875 that like my great grandmother had or something like that, and like the leaves are falling, and like you sit at the table, mom's like, don't put your elbows on the table or it will break. Like I understand why we have it, because the thing's been in family forever. But a guy who makes these big, beautiful tables, parents will not buy a table from him or even let him make a table because they have this old beat up table. But all the times that we had around that old beat up table, that's what you're making those pieces for,
Exactly.
So I'm right there with you. That's where I love making big tables like that. But have you ever found, see if you have found the same thing, have you found where doing pieces too big, you kind of lose your momentum with?
Yeah. And the reason for me is because I unfortunately work full time outside of AT Timberworks. So I only have so much time to dedicate. And I'll spend as much time as I possibly can out in the garage working on it. But sometimes it takes me an hour or two to even just get into the groove. And then all of a sudden it's 10 p.m. and I have to work tomorrow. So that's like the one downfall that I see. And also just maneuvering. I have a 2-car garage, but with big tools, a joiner, a table saw, and like the weight. Sometimes I have to ask my husband, can you help me like come flip this tabletop? Because I I can lift a lot of stuff, but it tends to get tricky with a big table.
The weight adds up for sure.
I remember with that monkey pod slab, I think I asked him to help me flip that thing probably 10 times because I was working, I was flattening it and I was stitching it and I was doing all the things, finishing it. And then the legs, and I felt terrible. I think I got to give him a cut of that commission, but
yeah, well, and that's where a lot of people don't realize, like, just when you're doing that, the woodworking, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. There's more than just the tools, and like you said, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get into the groove because it's not like you can just. You're not stepping up to just some factory line or something like that. You're creating art. And sometimes it takes a little bit to get jamming.
Yeah. And you're setting up a camera.
Setting up camera, or you're setting up tools. That's another one that, people be like, well, why does this cost so much money? You have no idea the time and energy that goes into it.
And I hate to rush. So, for example, when I was doing those stitches, I know they're squared on the ends. These need to look perfect because this is the tabletop, and I'm not going to rush it. Because it's so important to me that it looks handmade, but that I put the care into it that I would any other project. So I don't want to rush through it just to get it done. It just ends up taking more time.
Yeah. But that's also, once again, that's why people are buying stuff from you, because they want it that high quality. That's why they're coming to you. If they want something that's chitsy, they'll go to some unnamed big box store.
Yeah.
So let's kind of backtrack for a second. You got started. You made your first desk for yourself. Things kind of took off from there. What's the timeline you're looking at on that? Because I personally remember seeing your stuff, that desk, and you were at like, I don't know, it was like 800 followers or something like that on Instagram. I still remember the message coming out to the group. Everybody's like, congratulations, Alyssa, you hit 1,000. And I think when I looked at it this morning before I came here, you were like 60 or something like that. 60,000, not 60 followers, 60,000.
Yeah, that was a crazy time. So I, all my friends and family started following me initially, which was very kind. I hope they still do. And so that was 2020. I think that I started that Instagram account, or maybe it was 2021, but that whole time is kind of a blur to me. A lot of my family encouraged me and friends, why don't you start a business? I've always wanted to have my own business. Never sure what I wanted it to be, but this is perfect for me. So I started AT Timberworks officially in August of 2021. So going into that fall, winter, I remember hitting 500 followers. I made on the ground in tools the number 500 and posted it, and I was so excited.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, before we even met. And then I hit 1,000 and I felt like on top of the world. I'm like, this is so cool. There's 1,000 people that want to follow my woodworking. Yeah. And I barely feel like I know what I'm doing. Then 2022 hit, and that was a big year of growth for me. I started making all sorts of connections and, relationships, and that kind of thing helps build because, you're commenting, you're engaging, and then making, I think, some quality videos that start to go and get more attention on Instagram.
Yeah.
And that's when you get a big surge of followers, or when I saw a big surge is when I had a really high quality video that I don't want to say went viral, because it didn't. It was just saw a lot of people and a lot of traction.
Yeah.
To the point where you're getting like 500 comments from people you don't know.
Yeah.
Good or bad. So that is where I saw a huge surge of growth, was throughout the year of 2022.
2022. That was the year of Alyssa, was 2022.
Yeah, it was.
That's cool. So you found that, because I've, being what we do, you always see other people growing and stuff, and you're like, hey, how did you do that? Because you're wanting to replicate it. So you felt that like commenting on stuff helped, like other people's stuff.
I do. And really what it comes back to is building a relationship with those people, because they're not commenting just like nice or whatever. They're actually invested in you, in your work, in your life. That's why it's so cool to get to know people like strangers on the internet. You actually get to know and meet up in real life with them.
Yeah.
If they're local, if we're lucky enough. But then it's a combination of that, the engagement, and then videos that people want to see.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that usually means shorter videos because I do a whole minute and a half every time.
Like the full process, yeah.
Right. But then what I started doing, because it just fit into my flow, I was doing clips like, okay, so I think I did like a how I make a charcuterie board. And I think it was a live edge one and no epoxy, but I made a video every day for like a week. And that consistency as well is what I think Instagram liked.
Yeah.
But I didn't do it with growth in mind. It just happened and I was like, well, that's cool. So it's just interesting when people do ask, because everyone that I talk to does different things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's from my own perspective, I actually what's the word I'm looking for? I'm one of those people that Instagram is really 100% for business. Mm-hmm. And so I barely comment on anybody's stuff.
Right.
Almost never. Because the way I look at it is I'm representing my brand. And if I comment on somebody's stuff, I don't want to impact my brand in a negative way. And so it's like the world of texting. Sometimes people can take things out of context, not necessarily what you mean. That's why I'm worried sometimes about the things about commenting on stuff. Now, that being said, it's not like I'm going out and trolling people or being like, hey, man, that looks like garbage. What are you doing? Who uses a poplar slab, bum? Why are you doing dovetails with yellow pine? That's garbage. I don't do stuff like that, even though I want to say it. But so I always I never comment. But then within the last 5 months, I've started letting myself comment on stuff, and I have seen some growth because of that. So maybe that's something to it.
And I try to make it meaningful. If I, like a friend of mine building cabinets, I've actually never really built cabinets. I think
it sucks.
I think I could figure it out. I've seen it. I've seen you do it very recently. So, and I have a Craig jig, so I'd figure it out.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I will try to say, even ask a question, because then that gives them a chance to respond and me a chance to learn. So sometimes I say this is beautiful because that's just what I think. Yeah. But I try to also add meaning to the conversation.
I understand that. Yeah. If you're commenting on it, you really mean what you're saying. It's not a meaningless, hey, great job, or
absolutely
high five.
I don't comment on nearly as much as I used to, just because of time, and I don't want to spend 4 hours a day on Instagram. But if something strikes me, I will comment on it, just to make sure they know that I appreciate that.
Yeah. So the cabinet thing, I'm sure you can make cabinets, by the way. They're that's another one. I'm totally self-taught. So when I made cabinets for the first time, I literally went into the store, looked at some cabinets, got up underneath, looked at them, saw how they were put together, and then went and started making cabinets. One of the things that used to drive my dad crazy when I was first doing this stuff was I'd never made plans out. There was never a drawing.
Oh.
Everything was in my head. I have since now, because I'm doing full kitchens and stuff like that, you got to draw that out.
Yeah.
But so that used to drive him nuts that there was never a drawing. So where in there are you at? Are you doing drawings, or is it off the cusp, or is it kind of in between, depending?
It's in the middle. I really like drawing just with traditional paper and pencil. If I want to see something, or if it's for a customer or a client, I want them to see what I'm envisioning for them.
Yeah.
Of course, I hope they come to me because they trust my style and my work, but they're paying money, so I want them to be able to see up front what I'm envisioning. But there are some projects that I will do. I recently made for my nephew an easel, and I had it in my head, and I never drew it or wrote it down because I could see what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I just started building it. And it was so much fun because, one, he's 2, so he has no expectations. And also, it was for me. Oh, not for me. It was for him. But it was a project that I just wanted to be creative with. And
just having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's what I think that's what I don't like about plans necessarily is because you're stuck within the parameters of the plans.
Yeah.
You can't, there's nowhere to go with it as far as putting your artistic twist on it.
Yeah. And that's why if someone brings you a photo from Pinterest and they say, can you build this? I'm like, well, I could. I don't really want to, but I could.
Yeah.
So it depends on where I'm at, that month or that, season with my business.
Yeah. Well, that's, I never really had thought about it, but until we were just talking about it, there's like having the plans for me. It's almost like it. Maybe that's why I hate cabinetry so much is because I'm stuck within the parameter of the plans and I don't know, but I mean, cabinetry is cool. My first cabinets I made with a track saw.
Oh. Yeah,
just my Festool track saw.
Love that thing.
And I also use the attachment for a router to do all of the dados and rabbits with the track saw track.
Oh,
so
sure.
the whole Festool system. So my whole kitchen in my house was made with a track saw and a Festool router.
That's awesome.
And the Craig jig. And now I got big saw stop with the cross cut and dados and all that. And I got to say, the Festool was great. I love that thing. It did great. I still use the hell out of it. But the level of tightness that saw stop gives me and just, there's no variance.
Right.
Like the variance on that Festool was, you have everything drawn out. There's a slight variance depending on shadows in the room and things like that, where the lines are and how you set up. And so, like, the variance on my cabinets was like a 32nd of an inch. With that saw stop, there's nothing.
Yeah. Well, I find with the track saw, it has that splinter guard. So if I'm trimming the end of a table, it's perfect for that because if it's a 32nd or even more off, it does not matter.
Doesn't matter.
So, I've struggled with that too. Plus, I use the TS75, which is the big one. And
that's the same one I got.
Large and sometimes a lot to handle, but I love it. So.
What I used before I got that thing was I have a Milwaukee 12-inch handsaw.
Yeah, yep.
And we made our own track with a piece of plywood. And I clamped that down, and that's what I would make the cuts with. Yeah. And that thing cutting through, and I was, it was all testosterone. So I'm trying to cut through 3-inch slabs with that thing in a single pass. And like there's smoke blowing off of it, and I'm trying to cut. I'm surprised that I haven't started a fire yet. But anyways, we're back in 2020. You said right around 2021 is when you officially started AT Timberworks. Mm-hmm. So what clicked? What was it in your head? What went from family being supportive and people being like, hey, can you make this for me to, I'm going to make a run at this and start my own business?
I have a trait that I think I could figure anything out. So when I started getting all of these orders, it builds your confidence. I mean, you feel like people trust you and want you to make something because they think it looks cool or for whatever reason, or they know you and this is like a cool new venture. And I thought I could really make a small business out of this on the side. And I had no intentions of this becoming a full-time job in the next year. That was not my intention. I always wanted to do it honestly for fun. Yeah. And so I started looking into creating an LLC. I'm a CPA, so I think that way. And I think, what do I need to do to get this started? And so my friend and I started sketching a logo, and that's when it became real. I was like, this could be really cool. I could brand my stuff. Yeah. And then I went and just one night I just logged on the Ohio website, and I just created an LLC and announced it. And of course, everyone was so supportive, and I've had steady orders since that day.
Yeah. So it was just kind of like, this is fun.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I just had the confidence. I didn't even think about what would happen if I failed at this, because I would be back to where I was before, just working my regular job.
Yeah.
With more tools. After I acquired more tools.
Yeah, more tools. That is always the mantra of every woodworker out there. What tool can I get next?
Oh my gosh. I think about it every day.
I actually had a guy message me, this was in the last few days. He's like, hey, how much would it cost to get a good wood shop going? You've inspired me to start doing this stuff. And I've had like 3 or 4 messages in the last 2 weeks of, you've inspired me to become a woodworker. Do I look like I don't know what I'm doing? And they're like, man, if this friggin' guy can do it, anybody can do it.
No, I don't think it's that.
But he's like, how much do you think? And I was like, bro, I got 6 figures in my shop.
Yeah.
So like you can spend money real fast.
Yes. But honestly, I would just start small. That's how I think we all started, like just acquiring like small things.
Yep.
In some certain brands that I won't name, but you have to start somewhere.
Some throwaway stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I pointed. I was like, well, man, I said, you can spend a lot of money first, but the smart thing to do is go to like Facebook Marketplace or garage sales. Because my first set of tools, like you said, you started out with a little hand saw, circular saw, and some drills. I had a garage sale table saw that I got for $5. I had a crappy little DeWalt Orbital, and my brother bought me a DeWalt miter saw for a Christmas present.
Oh.
And that's what I started out with.
Yeah. You only need a few
some
things.
Old drills.
Yeah.
And, then I started getting the garage sale stuff. I was hitting all sorts of, because at that point I wasn't cutting my own wood, so I was like hitting auctions. Retired woodworkers or unfortunately woodworkers who would pass away and their wives would be selling their stuff.
Mm-hmm. Or
going
husbands.
there, or husbands. Sorry, and they would have just stacks and stacks and stacks of wood.
Right.
I still remember there was this gentleman had passed away. It was, where were we? Willard, Ohio. Mm-hmm. And they must have had 40,000 board feet for sale at this thing.
Holy moly.
He had been cutting all of his own wood with an Alaskan mill, 40,000 feet with an Alaskan mill, this little crappy Husqvarna saw. And there was stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of wood. And I got like 8,000 board feet of walnut for like $500.
Wow.
And that was really when I was like, all right, now I got the stock, and I started making stuff. Of course, none of it was dried properly, and I had all sorts of problems with shrinkage and stuff. But at the time, I was like, yeah, I got it. Anyways, so you made that switch. You were having fun. Mm-hmm. And you're still having fun, I hope.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So speaking of having fun, a few months ago, I was at an Ohio State football game. And I'm having a good time, and I take a picture of the field and post it, and all of a sudden I get a message from you, and you're on the field with the band. I'm like, wait a second. So it was the alumni band day, and you flip me a message, say, I'm here too.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a second, because to me, I'm a Buckeye. I'm a grad. So are you, obviously. And the band's a big freaking deal. You were in the best damn band in the land.
I was. So it's kind of an interesting story, and I didn't actually go to Ohio State for my undergrad. I went to John Carroll University in Cleveland. I played softball there for 4 years.
You're super smart.
Well, so in some ways, not always. So I got my degree in accounting. Obviously, that's what led me to be a CPA.
Yeah.
And I was looking to get my master's, because in Ohio you have to have a certain number of credit hours, all this stuff, to sit for the CPA exam.
Okay.
And I thought, this is my chance to fulfill my middle school dream. So when I was in middle school, I started marching band because we could at my high school and in 8th grade. And I played the French horn. So I played the mellophone in marching band. And so I had gone to an Ohio State game. And if you see the band in person, you are hooked.
Oh, yeah.
It is amazing, especially as a 14-year-old who just started marching band. So that was the day I decided I'm going to be in the Ohio State marching band. Well, things happen. You go to high school, things change. I got really into softball, and my family is a big sports family. So when I got recruited to play, I was like, I just won't be in the band. Okay. So then 2015, 16 rolls around, and I'm like, this is my chance. So I had to get in to the master's program. So I got in, I think in January that year. And then I was dead set. I'm going to practice every day until I try out for this band.
Yeah.
So I graduate from undergrad and I moved to Columbus by myself the very next day. I think I had like $3 and I had to get a job. So I started working and I went to these sessions. They had sessions twice a week to learn the fundamentals of marching and all the songs. And they loaned you an instrument because I actually don't own a mellophone.
Oh, wow.
So I would go every week, both days, and then tryouts roll around in mid-August, which is crazy when you think about kickoff being usually the end of August.
Yeah.
So it's the tryouts for me, I think it was like a 4-day process, and it's all day, every day. And I could not believe it, but they said my name on what we call Make the Band Night. So I had officially made the Ohio State Marching Band. I was 21. I was in grad school, and I was a rookie. So it was a really cool experience. It was probably the best year of my life, other than AT Timberworks. But the first day of band camp, I actually met my husband. So that was obviously a perk, but just the experience of being in that band, in that environment, getting to travel was just the opportunity of a lifetime. And it was so crazy. I hadn't played my instrument for 4 years. I set it down in high school and never picked it back up.
Yeah.
And when I started to, my friends and family were like, okay, Alyssa, but like, you might not make it. And I can't even think that way. I'm going to make it, and then I'll figure it out from there. So that's pretty much my story. So in every year since, I've marched in the alumni band, which is how you know.
Yeah, which is awesome, I think. I mean, so when I was at Ohio State, obviously I'm older than you. When I was at Ohio State, the band practiced right next to the stadium in the on that blacktop.
Yes. Well,
that's where they still where they do it.
No, they're on the south side of the stadium. There's a turf field outside of the stadium.
Oh, yeah.
That's the field we use now.
Over there where it used to be all part of, when I was in school, it was Larkin's. Now that's been torn down as the rec center. I don't know what they have it named. But all those fields right there, right?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about? Okay.
It's right outside the stadium.
Right next to the towers.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Are you familiar with what we're talking about? Okay. I'm sorry, we're just Ohio State naming places and assuming everybody knows where we're at. But okay, so it's right there because I always wondered, like, that's got to be hot on that blacktop when they used to practice on that blacktop. Like, that's got to be brutal.
It's still really hot
in August. In August in Columbus, it's toasty.
And we were doing like 3-a-days. Like, it's not. I would never compare it to like the football team, but it is intense.
Oh yeah.
And my very first morning, you barely slept because after you make the band, there's like a whole to do. The next morning, you're thrown right in. First thing, Script, Ohio, and I mean Script, Ohio's like big follow the leader, but it's so intense and you're learning so much in the span of 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because we had our first home game, like I said, in August. It's just crazy. And you're marching down that ramp.
Like drinking water out of a fire hose.
Yes, exactly. And then you're starting class.
Yeah. I
don't even remember that. I mean, I went to all my classes, but man, thank God I had a great undergrad education because I was studying music in class.
Yeah.
I had to.
Good for you, because I didn't go to every class. I can tell you that.
Well, for the money I paid for it, I figured I better get my money's worth.
I mean, I made it to most of them.
Enough.
I made it to enough to graduate.
Exactly.
Well, that's. I mean, to me, it's just intriguing because the band. So, to really appreciate, Ohio State's band, you go to a high school football game. Like any high school, there's some great high school bands out there. There are. But literally the week that we went to the game down there, and I think they were playing Youngstown State.
Yep.
The night before, we went to our local high school football. And they try really hard. They're working hard. They're doing a good job. But there's like 60, 70 kids out there. And the visiting school was really bad.
Hope it wasn't my high school.
No, it wasn't. I'm not going to say who it was, but it was. I felt really bad for him. Like, it's to the point where you feel bad for it. It was the visiting school. Our home school, they work really hard, and they actually do. They do a variation of Script Ohio. It's Script Lions. They write lions out because cool. That's our mascot or whatever. And then we go to Ohio State the next morning, and it isn't just the band. It's the band with the alumni. So there must have been, I don't even know.
There's usually about 800 on the field.
I was going to say almost 1,000 people. So 800. It was intense. Like, my wife had never been to a game before, and she's sitting there and she's like, what is this? I'm like, it's the band. What are you talking about? And she's like, I had no idea. I just thought, I was like, no, this is an experience. Like, a game, and the band comes out, and it's the whole place goes bonkers, and it's the amount of power coming from the field in that band. It's unbelievable. Like, one time I remember playing a team in high school where the band had like 280 kids in it.
Oh my gosh.
It's a huge band. And I remember sitting on the sidelines waiting to go in, and the other band is playing whatever their school's song was. I forget what it was. They were the Warriors or something. So it was some variation of like the Tomahawk Chop or something. I don't know. But I remember sitting there being like, this is freaking awesome. Mm-hmm. I am jacked up right now because this power coming out of the band. So to me, it's just really neat that you were able to do that, because that's a once in a lifetime experience. A very small percentage of people can say that they were in the best damn band in the land.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
Thank
Cool,
you.
I think, personally.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite accomplishments for sure.
For sure.
I mean, it changed the whole trajectory of my life.
Yeah.
So.
You got your CPA.
Yep.
You met your husband. And you get to brag about that you were in the band. Now, the one thing that I'm going to plead ignorance to is I don't know what instrument you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. So I started on trumpet, 5th grade, whatever, you pick an instrument. I actually still own that trumpet that my parents gifted me when I was 10.
Yeah.
And then when I got to middle school, I actually started playing French horn because it's a lot more complicated, so you don't start a young kid on it.
I'm familiar with the French horn.
Yep. And it's a concert instrument, but because the way it rests, you can't march with it.
Yeah, no way.
The sound is really cool, and it's in a lot of things that you maybe wouldn't realize at first.
Yeah.
So then when you go to marching band, you play the mellophone, which it really just looks like a big trumpet, but it plays the alto sound of a French horn.
So it's the trumpet with a little bit bigger.
Exactly, the bell.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
No, I did
3
not
valves.
know that.
Yeah.
All these years, I just thought it was like, man, those are really big trumpets.
Yeah, those are fat trumpets. Yeah. Yeah. So there's the same number of trumpets, mellophones, trombones, sousaphones in the Ohio State Marching Band. There's 28 of each.
No kidding. I didn't know there was an exact number.
Oh yeah.
I guess that makes sense now.
Oh yeah. There's rows, and the band is a mirror. From the middle, it's the percussion, then out.
It's mirrored out. That's cool. That's cool. So to switch off of me being a band groupie, to let's swing back to AT Timberworks and what you're doing there.
Okay.
So we were talking about it earlier. You just had a big moment where you came out with a Hartville Hardware / Carhartt commercial, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. So you just experienced that, which is huge. You want to talk about that for a second? Like, what's that like?
So I think your followers probably know that you're a social partner with Hartville Hardware.
I would imagine if they actually listen to anything
if they
I
don't,
say,
they know now. Fun fact, so am I. That's how Ben and I are such good friends. So I started working with Hartville Hardware this year, and I was asked to be a part of a Carhartt campaign called Get the Look. So that was this fall, and they came out with some new clothing items, and we did this whole photo shoot. It was really cool. I got to hold a little track saw, wear the clothes, and then my poster was in the store, which was really weird to see. And I actually have the poster now. Might hang it in my shop. I'm not sure. But then the Hartville Hardware folks asked me to be part of a video, essentially like a mini documentary type video. And of course I was flattered. So they came up and we did a shoot. We talked about my values, Hartville Hardware values, Carhartt values, just how all of those tie in. Because I'm a big Carhartt fan. So I think a lot of woodworkers are, because the brand is just, it's so reputable and durable and trustworthy. And the selection at Hartville Hardware is amazing. I think they carry everything. So
I think the biggest Carhartt section in the U.S. or something like that. Is that right?
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. So
I'm going to go hit it here in a little bit for Christmas presents.
Me too. Yeah. Okay, great. We'll go. So we shot this video, and I got to do a lot of fun footage of me like actually woodworking. And then they also had some other individuals. So the Carhartt rep for the store was part of the video, and the owner, I think, of the store. So
Howard.
Yes, thank you. Sorry. So it was a really cool experience, and that video just got released Thursday. So recently.
I saw it. Yeah, it's good.
It was a lot of fun, and it's fun to talk about your journey and how the brands Hartville Hardware and Carhartt have been a part of it. Yeah,
it's one of those things that you start talking about that stuff, and you're like, man, I can't believe all this stuff actually happened to me.
I know.
Because,
I was getting pictures, people coming to the store and seeing my poster and texting me, oh my gosh, you're famous, which is funny, but it's just really cool. And it's the people and the experiences I've had from AT Timberworks has been just so awesome and valuable.
See, that's fun that you get to have that happen, because, for me, with my wife and kids and my family, it's apparently if you get to watch somebody fall asleep on the couch and snore for 10 minutes, they're not cool anymore. So I, my kids really don't care.
Oh,
it's not in a mean way. They're just yeah, whatever, Dad. And I guess it's a little bit of payback, because my mom is a very accomplished artist and calligrapher.
Oh.
She's been published in lots of stuff, and illustrated a number of different Christian books.
Okay.
And she, I don't know what they call it. It's like a fellowship, or she's a fellow at a local art gallery or whatever. Main Street Art Spot, if anybody is wondering, at Minerva. But my entire life, she was doing that stuff, and we would go to her art gallery openings and stuff and be like, yeah, whatever, Mom, you're not. So it's payback to me that my kids are doing that. Although I got my kids finally started to be like, oh, hey, Dad might be doing some stuff, when I got my first NFL football player, active player, started following me a month and a half ago.
Oh, that's cool.
And I pay attention when stuff like that comes up. I do. I'm like, hey, what is this? And then I had I've never seen the guy. Some personality from Fox and Friends started following me this week too. And that was my wife was like, hey, maybe you're kind of a big deal. But I'm glad that you get to experience that, because from when your kids get older, they're going to be like, whatever, Mom.
Yeah. I actually have my first kid on the way, so we'll see if she appreciates my work.
Pretty pumped about it. Well, she's got a great example of a wonderful person, for sure.
Thanks, Ben.
And that is something. I mean, we can talk about that for a second. So I know that we've talked in the past about a little bit of the static you get, because predominantly the woodworking world is a bunch of bearded, hairy, tattooed assholes like me. And you have, in the past, we've talked about it, you've had people give you some static, some business about being a woman, doing this stuff. I've seen what you do. You're extremely talented. The freehand router work you do is intense. You were like, I need a shaper. I'm like, you don't need a shaper. You're just doing it on your own. So the work you're doing is very, very difficult, and you make it look easy. But you do have people giving you some crap about it. Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, I think, of course, people say when you put yourself out there on the internet, you're opening yourself up to criticism. And I can handle criticism. But when it comes from a place of, when you get comments of things like you don't know what you're doing because I'm a younger woman, or I don't know, maybe it's because I have blonde hair. I don't know. It's hard to say. But hey, I'll get comments of, and it's usually older men, because you can see like their little profile. And they have like no posts and no videos. It's just really funny.
20 followers.
Yeah. And I really don't let things like bother me like that, because everyone is entitled to their opinion. But I always wonder to myself, would you say this to my friend Ben if he posted the same video? You know what I mean?
Maybe.
I mean, maybe, yeah.
I get some crap
might.
too. I do.
It's interesting because it's hard. It's a stereotype that you have to, it's a barrier that you have to get past, because it can be very intimidating. I mean, I didn't even want to show like my face, or the fact that I was doing these things as a young woman, and I just had to get past that. And I will say 98% of people are awesome and respectful and supportive, just like you. But then, of course, you've got what you referred to as trolls. But
trolls, yahoos, jerks.
Yeah, and another thing that sometimes and maybe I'm making this up in my head, sometimes I feel like there's a lack of like trust, and it's inherent. It's not, maybe it's because she's not formally trained, or she doesn't know what she's doing. But I think inherently people trust a man more to do a job like that. Anything, any trade, really. So again, I could be making that up, but I can sometimes sense it. And there's a lot of surprise when I tell people what I do. And
really?
So, yeah, especially, I've met a lot of people here at Hartville Hardware during like a tool sale. There's a lot of people here. We talk like a rep, let's say a Milwaukee rep, for example. And this did not happen, it's just an example. They'll say, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I build tables. Oh, and the surprise on their face is always so funny. They're like, that's cool. Can I see? And I'm like, yeah. And so it sparks a conversation because they're intrigued.
I got you.
But I really do hope that I inspire some, especially women, especially younger women, to pursue something like this, even if it's not woodworking. And I hope that my daughter will eventually, see that her mom is, chasing dreams and doing things that maybe aren't so stereotypical for someone like me.
Yeah. So for me, maybe it's just I guess it is the way I was raised. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't put restrictions on anybody, ever. Like I said, my mom was a very accomplished artist, a very strong woman. My dad was a dairy farmer until 1982. And, mom's always been out there getting dirty. And my sister, she has her degree in horticulture from Ohio State. And she was always out getting dirty with all of us and working hard. So it's not it's not a weird thing to me. And my wife, super strong woman, works hard, out doing stuff. She's a general manager. She's got like 100 people working for her or something like that. And she's always out getting dirty with me. But so like, to me, it's just like whatever. It doesn't matter. I look at the content of what you're doing and the skill level of what you're operating at. Gender's got nothing to do with it. There are people, I mean, you have to accept the fact there are people out there who, on both sides of it, who are just utilizing not necessarily their woodworking skills, but their look to be able to gain followers.
I think I know what you're talking about.
There are. There's guys that do it.
Yeah, sure.
There's literally multiple guys that I see that they don't do a thing. They're just the face of their business. Mm-hmm. Like you can see from the way they're holding their tools in their videos. It's like, dude, you ain't doing that. And it's the same thing goes. There are some young women out there who you watch the video, you're like, you're not actually doing that. But it's both ways. You can see the ones that are out there working and doing it and actually doing it like you are, mm-hmm. and like I am. And then you see the ones that just are working the algorithm.
Yeah, the algorithm. Yeah.
And I have videos with sleeveless shirts on and stuff like that. Nobody's getting hot and bothered about it, but there's guys out there who are doing that, and they're, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that from my perspective, I don't know. I'm rambling at this point, but I appreciate with what you're doing, and maybe it's because of the way I was raised. Maybe it's just that I see that everybody can have different skill sets. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Nope. Any of that stuff. But
I always just say there's room for everyone.
There is 100%, 100%. And you to put your mind at ease a little bit. I get a good bit of grief.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit of a comment police guy where I don't care about the algorithm and I will delete shit off of my Instagram.
Well, one time someone posted something basically telling me I was wrong.
Yeah.
And saying, she doesn't know what she's doing, whatever. And I posted it on my story because I was like, why do people say things like this?
Yeah.
Like, just keep going, keep scrolling. And my woodworking friends found that video because it was an older video, kind of strange. They found it, went back to the video, and it all started responding to this guy. It was so hilarious.
Started going after him.
Yeah, it's just silly.
Yeah.
Or sometimes when my face isn't in a video, they'll say, "Nice work, man."
Yeah.
Which doesn't bug me because it's just funny because they just assume it's a man. And it's hilarious to me because I'm like, maybe I just have manly hands. I don't know. But yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah. I can say that like my go-to is nice job, brother. Like, yeah. I just say that.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to it was one of my big like break moments was I started talking with Black Rifle Coffee, and I messaged him back and forth, and like all their videos are dudes being stupid, right? Shooting guns, throwing coffee, drinking whiskey, shit like that. So I'm messaging back and forth to this person. I'm like, all right, man, cool. We were setting up a meeting. I was like, all right, man, cool. And the person comes back. I've been talking to him for like 3 weeks. And comes back and is like, hey, actually, my name's Jessica. I'll never forget it because I was super embarrassed that I made that assumption.
That's why when you said earlier, you said a wife selling a husband's tools, I said or
the other way. It's.
I know it's not as common in the older generation, but
well, you never know. Like I said, people get into stuff. We had there's here at Tool Sale. I remember a few years ago. There's a real nice lady. She was in her 60s, early 70s. She's over there working away. She had a little, what are those things called? It's not a bandsaw. It's just a little
scroll saw.
Scroll saw. She's over there just cutting away these patterns.
Yeah.
And unbelievably talented. There's no way I could do that.
Right.
Like her hand control was unmatched.
The scroll saw is tough. I've tried it once. It was.
Yeah. So that is, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, being what we do. Mm-hmm. I know that's something that you and I have talked about. But it's proud of you for continuing to push through that, not let the trolls and idiots get in the way of you following your dream, because that's what it really all comes down to, is you're following your dream, right?
Yeah.
You're doing what you love to do. Can't let haters get in the way, because boy, they're just out there living for it. They're I don't understand how people can, just sit there and troll on people all day long. How boring their lives must be.
Yep, that's what I think too.
Yeah, I feel bad for them after I delete and block them. Which, if somebody is listening, I do delete and block. Like, if you get on and do negative comments, I will delete and block you in a heartbeat, because I don't need that negativity. Neither do you. Nobody does.
Yeah.
Nobody does. So, AT Timberworks, it's been a whirlwind since 2020 for you. You're having your first baby. Like I said, when you told me about it, I was super pumped for you, because I've got 3 daughters and I got 3 sons. So I'm sorry, I got 4 sons. Holy crap.
Oh my.
Sorry.
Which one did you forget?
I'm not going to say. Being a parent's awesome, but the next 5 years are going to be vastly different for you. Through the course of that, where do you see AT Timberworks going? What's 5-year plan for you?
I've thought about it a lot, because I know how much this will change my life.
Yeah.
Especially just physically for me in the short term.
Yeah. Well, plus you got your dogs too.
Yeah, I've
That's
got
important. You can't
two.
forget about your fur babies,
Yes,
right?
I would never. So I am not actually making a hard plan like I have in the past, just because I don't know how this is going to go. Yeah. A lot of my family and friends are young parents, or parents of young kids, and I've seen it, but I've never experienced it. So I'm trying to keep an open mind. What my goal really overall for the next few years is to keep making things when I can, knowing that it's not going to be as much as I can now, but making things that I want to make and pushing my skill set as I do that. So maybe I don't produce as much, but I want to keep making slowly and steadily, and building my skills in my shop.
Being selective.
Exactly. That's exactly.
Gotcha.
You read my mind.
Yep, being selective. Get a good baby monitor.
Yeah, I just registered for one yesterday.
Yep, because when I first started out, I don't know how much you know about my full story, but when I first started out, my wife had just passed away, and it was just me and my son Jack. My 2 oldest kids they lived with their mom, and it was me and Jack, and I'd put him to bed and then go down in the garage and work. And so good baby monitor is worth its weight in gold, so you can continue to produce, because you get used to having that mental release of what woodworking is, and especially with a brand new baby, you're going to need that.
Yep. I'm excited because I have a little bit of maternity leave, but
yeah.
And ideally I'd be able to do some woodworking, but I'm not going to guarantee, because I just don't know.
Yeah. Just don't be afraid to expose them to it, as long as they know what stuff not to touch.
Yeah.
My kids, like I said, they're not excited about what I do, because they've been sitting there watching me from the beginning to where I'm at now. It's just what you do. It's just what I do. There's pictures somewhere. I'll dig them up and post them somewhere of my kids sitting in the bed of my truck watching me sawmill with an Alaskan sawmill. And if you want to talk about some boring stuff, sawmilling 55-inch diameter logs with an Alaskan sawmill, 25 minutes a cut, that is some boring stuff.
Wow.
And there's pictures of them sitting watching me do it. That was our Saturdays. So, but if you expose her to it, yeah. So the one question, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. Do you have a name picked out?
I do have a name picked out, but I haven't told my family yet.
Oh, well then this isn't going to release for another month.
So I have a month to tell them.
You don't have to say it if you don't want to, like I said, but you can tell me off air.
I will. I'll tell you off air.
Cool. All right. So your 5-year plan is to keep pushing your skill set, not necessarily like growing your business to some ridiculous level to go out full time with, or anything. You still want to maintain your current job because you love what you do.
I'm good at it.
You're good at it. But you want to, I'm just recapping. Sorry. You want to maintain that home life balance and push your skill set and be selective with what you with what you're doing, and maintain this great relationship with Hartville Hardware and now Carhartt.
Absolutely.
I like your sweatshirt, by the way.
Thank you.
That color's nice.
Thank you.
Shauna would love that thing for sure. So my last question, and this is the one plain question that I have, is when I'm working in the shop, I'm always, unless I'm figuring the math out on cabinetry, which is another reason why I hate cabinetry, I'm always listening to music. I always have music going. I always have my jams. Depends on the mood I'm in, but I have like my go-to stuff, and sometimes that changes. Like if you asked me my top 5 today, it'd be different from what it was when Titus asked me however many episodes ago. So what are your top 5 let's get shit done songs if you listen to music?
So I was going to say, I am actually a big podcast listener. So the reason being, I love music and stuff, but podcasts, there's so much to learn. That and audiobooks. And I will get invested into a story.
You would really like my mom. She loves audiobooks.
Yeah, I just finished a great one. So, there's songs that really get me going. 5, though, you're going to make me name 5. That's a lot.
Well, what we've done, there's been a couple people who couldn't pick out 5 songs, but they pick out 5 artists. So I'll accept 5 artists.
Okay.
Or I have a variation question if you can't come up with 5.
I will definitely still listen to music.
Okay.
But usually I have headphones in, got noise cancellation for ear protection. But my number 1 artist is the Eagles.
Hey, the Eagles, no kidding.
Yes. Eagles, got that from my dad. So I will listen to them all day, every day. Kind of a change up, but my second favorite is 21 Pilots.
Okay.
From Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
Seen them in concert a couple times. They're amazing.
I didn't know they were from Columbus.
Yep. They both are.
The Eagles are from Columbus?
No. Sorry. Both guys
both
in
people.
21 Pilots.
Okay.
Yep. Woo. Sorry.
It blew my mind for a second.
No, I wish. Those are the top 2 that come to mind.
Okay.
And then switching it up again, I really like any country music. So more classic country music, like early 2000s.
Not like poppy country music?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I'll listen to anything, but if
She just called early 2000s country classic country.
Well, okay, I was born in the 90s.
Holy crap, I'm old.
I just think it's different now. So those would be my top 3 if I had to pick music or a playlist, yeah.
Top 3. We're getting top 3 out of you. So it was Eagles, 21 Pilots, and any country music.
Yep.
Nobody specific. So we got those top 3. I'll give you... let's do your top 2 podcasts to listen to. Then.
Oh boy, changing gears here because this is going to get real dark. I listen to pretty much all true crime podcasts in the shop.
True crime. What is it?
I don't know what it is. I know it's everyone I know that's like me. It's so funny, and sometimes it'll startle me because I'm out there by myself. It's dark.
Yeah,
it's late. So, but I have a lot of sharp tools around, so I could probably defend myself.
So I'm not the only one that runs through their head when they're working.
No,
I have my back to the door. I'm like, what do I do if somebody comes in here right now?
Absolutely not. I think about it all the time. So my top is I love My Favorite Murder is probably one of my favorites. That one and Crime Junkie are my 2 top podcasts, which is hilarious. But I will say I do listen to other like woodworking podcasts, things like that I do really enjoy. Okay.
I don't listen to any podcasts.
Like you said.
Yeah. Except for, no, not even this one. Not even this one. I make it halfway through an episode and I'm like, I need music.
Well, you were there, so.
Yeah. But you know what? Be honest with you, like the last one we just released, I don't even remember half the stuff we talked about.
Yeah.
Like I'm listening to it, I'm like, when did we talk about that? I don't remember that. Anyways, so The Eagles, 21 Pilots, any country music, even like bad country music,
No,
like
I mean,
Taylor Swift.
Why would you ask me that? I don't classify her as country. I'll just put it as like
Yeah, neither do I. When I think of country music, I think of like Chris Stapleton,
yeah,
Eric Church,
yeah, Garth
Gart,
Brooks,
Kenny Chesney's okay. Dierks Bentley, I'm a big fan of Dierks Bentley.
Dierks is great.
Love Dierks Bentley. My wife's really big into this.
Zach Bryan. Yep.
Yeah, that's the one.
I knew that. You didn't even have to say it. I just knew.
Yep. And she also, it's funny that you said the crime podcast, because if none of the kids are around, I'll come home and okay, so Shauna just had her hip replaced.
Okay.
And she was at home for 2 weeks. I took care of her, but she got free reign of the remote for the TV, and it was nonstop courtroom stuff, true crime, Snapped, all that stuff. And then Dateline.
I was just gonna say Dateline's my other top podcast.
And the funny thing is, and it doesn't bother me that the result is this. It actually, I don't mind it. But by the end of the day, she's so high strung about watching all these people commit crimes and like kill each other, like she can't get close enough to me in bed because she's scared.
That's hilarious.
And I'm like, well, don't watch that stuff.
Yeah.
But
I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I think she's plotting, like finding out the best way to eliminate me.
Oh my gosh. My husband always says that. If I die, it was Alyssa. I'm like, well, I've seen enough Dateline to know what not to do. So.
Exactly right. Here's what not to do: not to commit crime.
Yeah,
there you go.
That's a simple answer.
Yeah, there's a simple answer. All right, so that's your top 5. Once again, to recap, how can everybody find you on social media? One more time.
Yeah. So my Instagram is the best place. My username is at AT_Timberworks. You can also go to my website at attimberworks.com. Pretty straightforward there. It's got contact info as well. And then hopefully in 2024, YouTube, depending on how this pregnancy and baby goes.
Good. And I'm sure the pregnancy and baby is going to go awesome.
Yeah. It's going well so far. I'm really, really excited.
Yeah. Like I said, I am genuinely super pumped for you for that. Parenthood is challenging, but man, there is nothing better than holding a baby.
Yep.
Sitting at home, rocking, holding a baby, there's nothing better than that. And then it all goes downhill from there. Oh,
I will add, just if this is okay, my next big project is I'm going to build her a crib.
Oh, yeah. You told me that. That's super awesome.
So
really I'm excited to see that. Because I made my son's bed, which it's about ready to get. This was one of my first projects. Oh. And it's big, it's bulky. I'm waiting for the headboard to snap and smash him.
Yeah.
But I'm getting ready to remake his bed too. But that's I'm excited for that for you. But parenthood's not all downhill. I'm just having fun with you about that. It's pretty. There's positive moments. There's negative moments. Same as life in general, ups and downs. And there's some days where you're like, you want to smack your kid and just be like, "What are you doing?" And then there's other days where they make you proud beyond words. And sometimes it's wrapped up in their actions or athletics or whatever, and then other academics. So, like you may have seen, like my oldest biological son. I have a blended family. That's why I forgot the number there. My oldest biological son just joined the Army. Just took his oath. Been on November 30th. Mm-hmm. So, like, very proud of him for that. Not so proud of him for flunking out of school. But he made the correct decision to be able to overcome that. Yeah. So, there's positives and negatives to that. So, Alyssa with AT Timberworks, it has been a pleasure to have you here on the Unexpected Podcast. Once again, you can find me at red_barn_home. Did I say that right? I always mess that up. I don't know why. Also on Facebook at redbarnhomefurnishings.com. I'm totally having brain farts right now. Totally screwing the ending up here. But
okay.
Anyways, thank you so much for being here. Really excited to continue to watch you grow and mature the same as me. Like, we're always growing and maturing with the woodworking, but really happy that you were here, and that's pretty much it. So I appreciate everybody being here, appreciate everybody listening to us talk, and hope you catch the next episode. Thanks for listening. God bless.